What's up everyone, Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic, and I have yet another collection update for you. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to squeeze in, one or two more before the year end, but got a nice little stack of music here, some nice little surprises too. So I figured it was time for another collection update, and I definitely want to get into this one because once again, there's some other albums that may have crept onto my year-end list. I'm not entirely sure. They're kind of on the cusp, but yeah, no, there's been a lot of great music that's come out this year, so it's gonna be tough. So let's get into this. Warfect, Spectre of Devastation. I pretty much had this one on my radar as soon as I heard a couple of these singles. I believe Pestilence and Rat King were the ones that I heard first. But as soon as I heard them, man, I absolutely just loved their sound. This is just hyper aggressive thrash. This came out on Napalm Records, and man, it's just insanely fast, insanely aggressive thrash from Sweden, which generally you don't hear much about thrash from Sweden. I imagine there's plenty of bands out there that are from Sweden and play thrash, but this is honestly one of the few that I have picked up here recently. And this is just high octane thrash, very aggressive thrash. There's even moments with blast beats. It kind of has a slight blackened tinge with the vocals. Love the production. It's a little quiet. It seems just a little bit lower than pretty much like the usual sound for, most albums here in terms of just the sound level. But I really dug this one. And man, it's really creeping on my year-end list. It's kind of on the cusp. There's some others I might like a little bit more, but if anything, take this as an honorable mention and a great suggestion if you want some unbelievably fast, aggressive thrash metal, kind of borders on even some death metal and black metal in spots. Get this album. It's absolutely awesome. Check it out. Undeath, the compilation of Decomposition. Pretty much, I loved Legions of a Different Kind, and I had to get whatever else they had. Luckily, they had this compilation, which was actually re-released by Severed Records, I believe. Awesome, straight up old school. Like, this has like their early demos or EPs, I believe, on here, and there's no drop off in quality. If you love their new album, which, my God, get that album, you'll love this. It's just a little bit rougher quality. Song structures are absolutely nuts. It's technical but fiercely old school. Loads and loads of groovy pockets. I've pretty much said all this stuff about the last album, but it's just cool hearing them in their more raw form. Plus, on this, you also get a 25-minute live performance as the last track. So this is a really solid compilation, and it's just really cool to hear them at their most raw, and plus actually hearing them live, which they sound incredible live. I can't wait for live shows to come back because this is a band I definitely want to see. Again, lead work, absolutely scorching on here. Love just the very insane riffing. It's just kind of off kilter, but oh my God, it just has so many great hooks on it. Definitely check these guys out. Check out their newest release too, but if you can find this compilation, it is absolutely amazing. Check it out. Spirit Adrift, Chained to Oblivion. This is their debut album from 2016 out on Prosthetic Records, and man, this is one of my favorites from them now. This is easily their most doom-laden offering. 5 tracks, but it's 47 minutes. There's at least 2 on here that are over the 9-minute mark. It is so doomy and gloomy. God, the riffs and harmonies are just so tight. Now, it's interesting to hear them now where they've kind of evolved into a little bit more trad metal, kind of mixed in with doom metal. The trad metal stuff is very much dialed down in favor of just doom metal, like Saint Vitus, Candlemass. Absolutely amazing album, which honestly is pretty much par for the course because I love all their albums. This is an amazing band that deserves more attention. And honestly, if you're only used to their newer stuff, like the last 2 albums, which are amazing, go back and check out some of their older stuff if you just want to hear something way more doom-laden, because this is absolutely incredible from start to finish. Check it out. Vanick III. This is one of the albums I got for the Metalhead box from last month, and this is some really cool, kind of classic speed metal, thrash metal, heavy metal. It's kind of all in there, but with a little bit of a blackened touch. And yeah, it's pretty close to midnight, but there's a good reason, because the guy that plays guitar in here and actually fronts the band is also the touring guitarist for Midnight, and they're also from Cleveland. So yeah, there's a good reason why they sound similar. I have to say, though, this one is definitely more in the speed metal spectrum. There's really not any like black metal like feel to it at all. The vocals are kind of close. They're okay, but they kind of fit it, and it has this kind of cool like campy 80s horror sort of feel throughout. And there's a lot of like Cleveland bands represented in here. Their bassist plays in Vindicator, Ringworm, and Shed the Skin. All really solid Cleveland bands, all kind of different too, which is really cool. If you love like, you know, Kill 'Em All, you know, Killing Is My Business, it's very similar to that, maybe a little bit more simplified. But I love the energy on here. Reminds me a lot of like bands like Hollow's Eve. Good fun. And that album cover is absolutely sick. Riffs, energy, you know, it's camp. I love it. Definitely check it out. Vicious Nights, Malevolent Spirits EP. This is the other one I got in the Metalhead box. This is their debut EP, came out in 2018. And this is straight up thrash metal / death thrash. At least it's a very heavy style of thrash, very reminiscent of, you know, Possessed, Morbid Saint, stuff like that. Definitely leans more to the thrash side, but you do get moments that it has that sort of early death metal sound, like maybe like a little nod to Scream Bloody Gore on there. Very strange intro on here. It's kind of operatic or symphonic or church choir-y. I don't know. It's kind of weird. It kind of feels like a live intro, but it definitely isn't. And the subject matter on here is kind of interesting. We have a song called The Great Ozma, so we have a Wizard of Oz reference on here. But overall, the music is really tight. I enjoy the old school, very raw production, the very old school thrash metal vocals, kind of gruff and occasionally shrieked. It's a fun listen, and this is their debut offering, so that's a pretty solid start. So I'm definitely eager to check out more by these guys, and this was a really cool find in the Metalhead box. But yeah, if you love old school thrash or death thrash or early death metal, yeah, any of those, definitely check this out. It was a fun listen. Hum, Inlet. I used to be a pretty big fan of Hum around their first album, You Prefer an Astronaut. And I was originally sure a lot of people knew that Star song. It was a really cool song, and it was kind of surprisingly metal-ish. Like, it starts off like pretty much every 90s alternative song at that point. And then all of a sudden it just gets thunderously heavy, like kind of that alternative metal, post-metal, post-grunge. I don't know, there's a lot of labels you can throw on this band. Either way, they did a follow-up in 97, and then they pretty much disbanded, and this is their first offering since 1997. So as soon as I saw this came out, I jumped at the chance because I love the follow-up too. Granted, it didn't do as well as their debut. It was still a really good album. They've come back heavier. Like, this is way more like dense and heavy, I think, in terms of like atmosphere. The guitar tone is just fiercely low and, you know, just swampy sounding, like kind of like, you know, Stephen Carpenter, Deftones sort of thing, but like mix that with like ISIS. Very droney in spots, but it's really good on the atmosphere. Step Into You was probably my favorite track in here. Just a solid hook, but I love this entire album. Kind of drones out towards the end, but it's still really good. I was legit surprised that these guys even popped up again. I thought they pretty much just kind of, you know, disappeared, but awesome to hear them again, and they came back with a really killer album. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to jamming more of this, and I don't know, maybe go back and listen to their old ones again. This was a fun little return to a band that I got into forever ago, like 95, which, yeah, no, that's a while ago. But either way, definitely check this album out. This is a hell of a comeback. Check it out. Proscrito, Llagas y Estigmas. I'm not very good at speaking Spanish, but this band is from Spain, and everything on here is in Spanish. But Proscritos means outlaw, and Llagas means ulcer. So ulcers and stigma, I think that's what that is. Either way, this is a death doom band from Spain, and this is some fiercely heavy stuff. As soon as you get into this, that guitar tone is absolutely massive. Very sludgy, very mid-tempo, at least the opener is. And the opener, honestly, is the song that I like the least because it kind of drones on with one riff forever, and I think that opening track is like 9 minutes long. There's only 5 tracks on here, but this is a pretty long album. But I like the vocal delivery on here. It's very kind of over-the-top-ish, like, you know, like John Tardy, that, yeah, you know, it's fun. And musically, when they get down to like varying up the songs a bit, it gets really interesting. Giant doom-laden riffs, really dreary harmonies and leads. tons of atmosphere in here, and I was surprised that a couple of the tracks in here are instrumental, and I really got into those. Doesn't really get up-tempo very much. There's a couple spots with some D beats on here, but overall it's about that slow, sullen, nasty feel and just kind of a really lumbering pace. But solid album. I just kind of picked this up on a whim. I saw it was on Memento Mori, and I like that label. So that was pretty much enough for me. Plus it was used, and I think it was like $6. I was like, well, worst case scenario, I lose $6. I didn't lose $6. This is killer. Definitely check this out. This came out this year too, and I don't know if it's gonna make the year-end list, but this was really good, and I'm definitely interested in future releases from these guys for sure. Check it out. Disastrous Murmur, Total Destroyer. Now this is a compilation I picked up by these guys this year. Just came out this year on Steelbreaker Records. Don't know anything about that label, but I had heard about this band, and I figured, hey, why not? Now, I can't find much information on this compilation. Yeah, namely, I mean, it's a small label, might be like kind of limited distribution. But listening to it, I would assume it's maybe demos, live tracks, unreleased tracks. And I don't know if this is like the best in terms of like a first impression, because like the production varies from song to song. Live songs sound really good, but it doesn't have like that uniform feel of an album, and I really wasn't sure what I was getting. I just saw Disastrous Murmur. Hey, I've heard about that band. Maybe it's time to check them out. And this is kind of where I started. Not necessarily maybe the best starting place, but I'm definitely interested, and I definitely want to check out some of their earlier albums because they have like kind of a cool like death thrash sound. It definitely screams, you know, old school death metal, but there's a lot of thrash to it, especially when it comes down to the guitar tone. It's very crunchy. It screams thrash. And there's some groove metal stuff on here, but then again, I don't know when these songs came out. I mean, I didn't want to go through the process of looking up each individual title and see if that actually shows up on what album from what era. So, again, an interesting sampling, but I definitely want to check out more by them. So that'll kind of have to do for a look into this band for now. So yeah, expect to see some more from these guys in future collection updates when I get around to getting them. Either way, check it out. Pretty solid. Dark Psychosis, The Edge of Nowhere. Now this is a one-man blackened thrash band, quote unquote. I think they were a little off on labeling that. Now, these guys, or at least back in the past it was these guys rather than one person, formed in 1999, then broke up in 2014, and then reformed this year, and this is the first release from them since, or rather him now, because it's a one-man act. And yeah, it's a little rough. First off, I really wouldn't call it black and thrash. It's more just straight up black metal. The production is pretty awful. It's pretty much a straight up demo, but it's not mixed very well. A lot of just grittiness that kind of muddies up everything. Vocal levels sometimes seem like they're kind of off in terms of like not uniform. Sometimes they sound louder in one song versus the other. Some songs are kind of more droning black metal, more atmospheric. Then it kind of skips over to like more like, you know, Dark Throne with that little bit of punk kind of, you know, peppered in there. But overall, it's not really that good, unfortunately. Because I was definitely interested in this. This came out on Morebound Records, and they're usually good about like finding cool underground acts, black metal, thrash metal, and death metal occasionally too. But this was a bit of a miss. I mean, I'll still go back and jam it, and I still recommend you check it out and form your own opinions on it. I may actually check out some of their earlier stuff just to see what they used to sound like beforehand. But yeah, this might not have been the best first impression, at least for me. But still, again, check it out, form your own opinions. Don't just listen to me. Evildead, United States of Anarchy. There's definitely been a fair amount of people in the comments asking for a review of this one, or, you know, tell me I should get this one. I got it. Now, this is their first album since 1991, so damn near 30 years. And this comes out on Steamhammer, SPV, and it's pretty much a return to form in terms of their first album. Second album, The Underworld, it's okay. First album is absolutely incredible. I love that album. Underrated gem. This is pretty close to that. I think the production is a little too gritty in spots. Like, I could definitely hear my speakers humming, and I know they're not blown. But overall, the riffs are back. That fierce Bay Area sound is there. Juan Garcia's definitely kept his, practice up. He's been playing in body count for quite a while now. Very much in the realm of Exodus. The vocals, I think, are good, but I feel like there is some sort of power missing in the delivery. Like, it kind of feels almost like he's just talking. Like, there's not a lot of, like, extra bark behind it. Now, it sounds stronger when they have, the gang vocals peppered in there, but that isn't, the bulk of the album. And I have to say there's some interesting surprises on here. The beginning of No Difference is a jazz session, and it's pretty damn good. Now, of course, it just, curtails right into thrash metal, but I just thought it was kind of fun hearing them have fun in the studio with that one. But yeah, pretty solid album. It's just good hearing these guys again because, I don't know, I wanted to hear this band continue on, see if they kind of, rebounded from the second album, which again, it's not terrible. It's just not up to stuff in terms of their first album. But this, pretty solid return to form. Get the cool Ed Repka artwork. I mean, yeah, it's all back. Welcome back, Evildead. So yeah, definitely check this out. Ilsa Prayer. It's their new album out on Relapse Records, and I really wasn't aware they were coming out with a new album until maybe a week or so ago, and I heard a couple of tracks on here. I was like, my God, that is insanely heavy. These guys have 3 guitarists now. Now, they don't do a lot of, like, stuff to really, like, layer out the sound in terms of, like, big harmonies where it definitely requires 3 guitarists, but what they do is just make it absolutely bone-crunching heavy. This whole album does not pull any stops there. This is sludgy, kind of crust meets death doom. It's so nasty. Very, like, dry screams in terms of vocals. The atmosphere on this is oppressive as hell. The opening intro is pretty much about a guy in the Church of Satan talking about killing for Satan. It might be someone famous. I know I've heard that excerpt before, but I couldn't quite place it. And they actually bring it back in the last track, The Square Coliseum, which, oh my God, that song is absolutely nasty. But this whole album is disgusting. And again, year-end lists, it's tough. But yeah, no, this is absolutely killer. I like this a lot more than Corpse Fortress, which was the album that preceded it. I thought that album was good, but it was definitely missing something, and apparently that was another guitarist that's just beating the ever-living hell out of you with monstrous doom metal riffs. Solid release. Killer release. Lots of adjectives to describe this release, so definitely check it out. And finally we have Odem, Timeless Past Above. Now, I picked this one up the same time I picked up Dark Psychosis. It was also on Morebound. And this one is a legit surprise because this doesn't sound like really anything that Morebound usually signs. This is modern death metal with black metal, and it's very technical. But my God, these guys deliver killer atmosphere, like lots of dissonant riffing and just pummeling drums. Bass drum's a little clicky. I don't like that part. But, oh my God, the songwriting here is absolutely fantastic. I had never heard this band before, just picked them up on a whim, and now I definitely want more from them. Solid songwriting. It kind of gets maybe a little long, I'm thinking on the song Descendants, which I think is 12 minutes. 12 minutes of that style in terms of one song can be a bit much, but they do construct a really solid song in terms of, like, peaks and valleys and such. Even get a nice little Immolation cover at the end of A Glorious Epoch, which generally you hear people cover, like, older material by Immolation. This is from Majesty and Decay, which is fairly recent. But this album really kind of shocked me in terms of, once again, this isn't usually what this label signs, and it's really, really good. I believe this came out this year on Morebound. This isn't a reissue because Morebound does reissue a lot of stuff, but I'm definitely a fan. I definitely want to hear more. This is really killer stuff. And generally, I'm not big on the whole modern sound, the super clicky drums and very technical play, but this has tons of memorable riffs and loads of atmosphere. And I don't know if I'd necessarily call it, like, blackened, but it is kind of close. Either way, check it out. This is an absolutely killer album. Just kind of came out of nowhere for me. And once again, makes year-end lists difficult. It's a possibility. It's really that good. Check it out. All right, well, that knocks out another one of these. Oh, man, so much good music came out this year. So this is becoming increasingly more difficult, but I'm getting close to whittling down a list. And we'll probably have those start coming up around mid-December. You know, we want to wait as long as possible because there are some other albums out there I definitely want to listen to. And at least catch up on recommendations from you guys, which you guys hit me with a lot. And I love the fact that you guys throw me a lot of cool stuff to check out. I just need more time to check it out because I got to check out all the other stuff that I already purchased, because I don't want to say I have a problem, but I might. It's a fun problem though. I love it. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We will catch you later.